Okay, I think that's what I have for announcements. I have a prophecy update, and then we'll have Jason to give his last two. He's got 9 and 10 tonight in Ecclesiastes. The next week will be 11 and 12, and he'll be finished. So, giving us a lot of wisdom on what we learn about in Ecclesiastes. Then I'm going to do a 7-week series on the temple. So I think this will be good just to learn and understand more and more about the temple. It's pretty exciting. And three of the ones I cover are going to be with a video, and we'll have a lot of discussion during this also. But for prophecy update, I think you got a handout. Most of you did. And this is Mark Robertson. And Mark Robinson was one of the guys up at the Grace Conference, and I've known Mark for a couple years. He's Jewish. His name used to be Robert Sohn, but he was speaking on prophecy, and according to Jim Scudder Jr., he says this guy knows more about prophecy than anybody. Well, that's always the way we decide who knows more than others is a little bit subjective, right? But this guy does know a lot. He has a ministry, and it's to the Jewish people mainly, but this is that Grace Conference 2025, and I know I went to both of his sessions. I think, Chris, you just went to the last one, and I'm not sure. I don't think there's anybody else in our group that went to these, so it's just us. But it was titled, What Lies Ahead, What Might We Expect? And so it's part 1 and part 2. And so I'm not going to go through everything on that sheet, but you can take that home and look it up, and I'm going to just kind of give you some things that he shared during this. Things that, most of the stuff we already know, we already agree on. Some things that he shared that was new to me and I thought was interesting. Let's take it for what it's worth. And it's not always objective of what he gave as dogmatic, but it's somewhat subjective, some of his ideas he gave. But I think they're pretty cool ideas, so I'll share them with you. But one thing he says, I'm not saying Trump is not the Antichrist. They taught me in grammar school you're not having a double negative. That's a double negative, right? So if I'm not saying that Trump is not the Antichrist, we don't know who the Antichrist is going to be. I know we have some series on he's going to be from the revived Roman Empire. Would Trump ever fit that? I don't know. He may be a precursor to it. We don't know. The Abraham Accords and everything that's going on is interesting to see that too. But I thought it was interesting that he said that, because I never would have believed I would have heard somebody that was supposedly a fundamental, strong Bible-teaching person saying this, okay? But here's what he believes about the Gog-Magog war, and we've talked about this before. From his studies, there's basically 7 different views on this Gog-Magog when it's going to occur, and it shows in the paper there. Some are ridiculous. He believes it's going to be toward the middle of the tribulation, and according to his study, Ezekiel 30, I personally think it's going to be more toward the start of the tribulation, either before or slightly after it starts. I don't know for sure, 100%. It doesn't give you details on when this actually starts. But we know the nations that are going to attack, and we know what's going to happen to them. Will we be here, or will we be raptured before this? The rapture is imminent, but we don't know for sure if we'll be here for the Gog-Magog war, do we? It'd be interesting if we are. If we're not, hey, I'm not going to complain. So anyways, but here's something he said too. I thought this is interesting. 85% of Christendom believes in replacement theology. Now, when he says Christendom, this was what he means, right? In quotes. In other words, all the people out there that are in what's called the Christian religion, saved or unsaved, you never know, right? But 85% of them believes in replacement theology. And actually, there's another Bible church here in town, and Chris and I attended that years and years ago. This had to have been 15 years ago. But there was a lady there that was talking to me and explaining to me how in Ezekiel 37, that is talking about the church being revived, the bones coming back together. And I'm thinking, verse 11 says the whole house of Israel. So anyways, but it's like people get taught this stuff and they believe it. That's the problem. They don't study it for themselves. They don't look at the alternate views. Once they're taught stuff, they believe it adamantly, and they're not going to change because of pride. And that's what most of Christianity is. Most people would not believe in this replacement theology, which replacement theology means that a church has replaced Israel. Israel over there, Israel right now, is not the true Israel. They shouldn't be there, and that's anti-Zionism. Israel should not be in the land. There's anti-Semitism, as we know, is coming too. But anyways, I believe they should be in the land. I believe that is the correct Israel, and I believe the Bible says that Israel is going to be in the land, and God's going to come back and work with Israel, Daniel 9:24 through 27, and so on. But anyways, let me go on to the next one here. Anti-Semitism will drive the Jews out of the United States. He talked about that. And right now they're voting for a mayor in New York, the Democratic mayor, who is very, very anti-Israel. In fact, he's an Islam, and he's only been here in the United States for 7 years. And so they believe that, I think that's the highest population of Jewish people in the U.S. is in New York, maybe the second highest in Florida. I don't know 100% for sure, but anyways, he's believing that anti-Semitism is going to drive the Jews out of the United States back to Israel. And we know that they are going to be going back to Israel, and it's a continuous thing. But anyways, here is another thing that he talked about. The present wars in Israel probably fulfill Ezekiel 38, because verse 8, verse 11, verse 14 talks of no walls, that they're living in peace. And now that said, they defeated all the enemies that they were attacked, the Hezbollah, I can't remember them all. They all start with an H. Houthis, Hamas, and all these ones that, and the Iranians, that they could live in peace right now. And right now, Trump is working with these nations to strengthen the Abraham Accord, which is interesting that Daniel doesn't say that they come up with a peace treaty. It says that they strengthen the covenant that's already in place. So that sounds kind of interesting. But anyways, he believes that what's happened right now is going to help fulfill the prophecy of Israel living in peace for that short time before Ezekiel 38 begins, when all these nations attacked Israel. The thing that you have to be is the U.S. has to be out of the picture. Either the U.S. is in no position to defend Israel, or U.S. is in a position where they won't defend Israel, one or the other. So, but that's future. Right now, we're pretty sure that right now we defend Israel. We have been defending Israel. So I thought that was interesting too. And the next one here is when we get into something interesting, which you guys, I'm going to cover two things next. If you have heard of these ideas before, let me know, because this is the first time I heard them. And so the gap between the rapture and the start of the tribulation, we wondered, what is that time period? You get raptured, then that peace treaty gets signed, and that's when the tribulation starts. So how long is that going to be? We don't know, right? The tribulation starts after the rapture. How many days is it going to be? Well, here's a theory that he comes up with. He equates the end of the old dispensation, which is the dispensation of law, to the start of the new dispensation, which is the church age, or the age of grace. Now, obviously, you got saved by grace through all time period back to the beginning, the dispensations. But the interesting thing is we studied this, that from the resurrection or the crucifixion of Christ to Pentecost, when Christ gets ascended, it was 50 days, right? Pentecost. And Luke 23, 43, 46, Acts 1, 11, 2, 1, so on. So the crucifixion to the Pentecost was 50 days. From the old dispensation, new. He comes up with this idea is that it's be also 50 days between the rapture and the signing of that peace treaty. I don't know. So anyways, we know that the signing of that covenant, you confirm it in Daniel 9:27, possibly the Abrahamic Accords. We don't know that. But we know that God is an orderly God. And you think about that. God is not sporadic. Genesis chapter 1 through 11, when God created everything, it was in order, right? I also see some other verses in 1 Corinthians 14, verse 33, and 1 Corinthians 14, 40. In the church, God believes in order, right? So God is an orderly person. So this could be a possibility. I don't know that for sure. So it's something to think about, right? That the 50 days after the rapture is when the tribulation starts. I don't know, and I don't think we care, right? To be honest with you. But then here's another one, the timing of the rapture. The verses I got up here, we know that Matthew 24:36, Titus 2:13, Luke 21:28, no man knows the day or the hour, right? Titus 2:13 says, keep looking up the blessed hope for him to return. Luke 21:28 said there'll be signs. Look up because, we see these signs going on. But we don't know the day or the hour. I mean, there's been those that have given the day or the hour before, and they've been proven to be nuts, right? We don't know that. But here's something that he found that was interesting, and I have not dug into this yet. But he equates the return from Babylon captivity to Israel as a total of 92 years. We know that the first wave went back, when they signed the decree they could go back and rebuild Jerusalem. And there was like 50,000 of them that went back, and then so on, more and more and more. But he says the total time span of those going back was 92 years, and he says you can understand that by studying Ezra and Nehemiah. I'd like to see somebody that wrote something on this or to know that. to be that it was 92 years. But so what he equates that with is, we know that the reestablishment of the Jewish state, May 14th, 1948, to the second coming of Jesus, okay? So Jewish state was reestablished, then Jesus Christ is going to come back, and if you use his idea of 90-day theory, you'd go from today, 1948, to 2025 is 77 years. You subtract 7 years from the tribulation, that leaves you 8 years. You take these 8 years and you add them to 2025, you get 2033. So that's saying that, hey, the rapture could be around this time period. Now, we don't know the day or the hour. Will we know the year, time? I don't know. But here's the easier way to look at it. 1948 plus 92 equals 2040. When Christ returns, you minus the 7 years for the tribulation, you get 2033. I don't know. I thought that was pretty interesting when he covered that. So there were a couple of the things that I picked up from that. Any of you ever hear this? Any of these? You have? Okay. So it's interesting to see it. Okay, that's what I have for my time. Now Jason will come up here and share with us the wisdom of Ecclesiastes.
Good morning. Nice to see all your happy, wonderful faces. It's kind of piggyback on one of the things he said. I actually do believe in a replacement theology. Hear me out, because I think you all probably do too. I was the one that belonged on that cross. Jesus replaced me. He took my place. He died when I should have. So that's the replacement theology I believe in, not this garbage that they come up with. Anyway, do forgive me tonight. I am probably going to get on a few tangents, as this there's a couple hot button issues I have in this one. A couple things that got my blood boiling a bit this time, so do forgive me if I get a little carried away. I'll try not to, but I make no promises. So anyway, we're in the book of Ecclesiastes. We're getting towards the end. So, quick review. We did first about the author. Solomon did start off good-ish. He was one of those ones that served God, but he also had others. And he fell in idolatry towards the end of his life. Ecclesiastes was written towards the end of his life, so you are getting an apostate writer of a biblical book. Let that one sink in for a second. And yes, I fully support this book being in the Bible, don't get me wrong. Much of Ecclesiastes is written from the perspective of under the sun, so when it talks about things in Ecclesiastes, they are only necessarily true from the perspective of within creation, i.e. under the sun, because once you start getting the eternal perspective in there, some of this stuff and some of the stuff we're going to cover tonight goes away very, very quickly. Chapter 2, we talked about the futility of fleshly pursuits. Chapter 3, we talked about the cyclical nature of everything, that although I don't know if it's necessarily everything happens in a cycle, maybe more like a spiral, because it seems like we're kind of going down the toilet right now, but maybe that's just me being cynical. It also talks, enjoy God, because everything dies. That's a very common theme we'll be covering again tonight. Chapter 4, we talked about life versus death, importance of work, friends, and the complete unimportance of popularity. Chapter 5, watch your mouth, and that talks about thinking before you speak, and don't let your words be too many. And he repeats again about the vanity of riches. Chapter 6, more so about the vanity in hoarding your riches. 2 weeks ago, and now that Pastor's back, I'm not going to hold you all hostage for an hour and a half, so apologies for that, by the way. I blame the bad clock we had. Chapter 7, we talked that godly, same thing. Godly things are better than wicked things, and upright women do in fact exist. Some guys don't seem to think so, but yeah, we gave examples. Chapter 8, obey the Lord, again, because everything dies. I bet you can't guess where we're starting with chapter 9. Everything dies. Verse 1 through 6. For I consider all this in my heart, that so that I could declare it all, that the righteous and the wise and their works are in the hand of God. People know neither love nor hatred by anything they see before them. All things come alike to all. One event happens to the righteous and the wicked, to the good, the clean, and the unclean, to him who sacrifices and him who does not sacrifice. As is the good, so is the sinner. He who takes an oath as he who fears an oath. This is an evil in all that is done under the sun, that one thing happens to all. Truly, the hearts of the sons of men are full of evil. Madness is in their hearts while they live, and after them they go to the dead. But for him who is joined to all the living, there is hope. For a living dog is better than a dead lion. For the living know they will die, but the dead know nothing, and they have no more reward. For the memory of them is forgotten. Also their love, their hatred, and their envy have now perished. Nevermore will they have a share in anything done under the sun. So it sure sounds to me like once we die, that's it. He says there's no more reward. No more reward. I kind of have an issue with that because it doesn't jive with the rest of Scripture. Once again, you start getting the eternal perspective in here. You get what's said in 1 Corinthians 3, 12 through 15. I think this is the most obvious statement on rewards in the entire Bible. And there are many. Now, if anyone builds on this foundation with gold, silver, precious stones, hay, wood, hay, straw, each one's work will become clear, for the day will declare it, because it will be revealed by fire, and the fire will test each one's work of what sort it is. If anyone's work which he has built on it endures, he will receive what? A reward, yes. If anyone's work is burned, he will suffer loss, but he himself will be saved, yet so as through fire. I don't know how many times we have to beat this into people's heads. Works are irrelevant to get you to heaven. They come into play for inheritance and rewards, but to get you to heaven, your works they have no effect. But yes, I can assure you, death is not the end. Verse 7 through 9. And this is where it's going to get a little hairy for me, so. Go eat your bread with joy and drink your wine with a merry heart, for God has already accepted your works. Let your garments always be white, and let your head lack no oil. Live joyfully with the wife whom you love all your days of your vain life, which he has given you under the sun, all your days of vanity. For that is your portion in life and in the labor which you perform under the sun. I'm sorry, that's rich. That's rich coming from Solomon. Live joyfully with your wife. Which one? 9:7. Has God accepted all your works? The more I look at it, the more I would say no. If he accepted all my works, why did Christ come here in the first place? Even if you want to say, okay, now I'm saved, so he's accepted all my works, why did we have the verse I just read? Where you get rewards and you can suffer loss in heaven. Your works do matter, not to get you into heaven, but they do matter where you end up in eternity. In heaven. What's even weirder is for the unsaved, it seems like their works will get them an even worse version of hell. I tend not to try to think about that because I don't plan on visiting there. But going back before that, eat your bread with joy, drink your wine with a merry heart. I want to make this very, very clear. I have no problem with wine. I do have a major issue with drunkenness. Wine, I believe, is very, very good for you. It's a very natural blood cleaner. But along with that, if you drink too much, it will have a pruning effect in your arteries. It can turn out from something extremely good to extremely bad very, very quickly. So drink it in moderation and be wise before you do it if you choose to do it. I don't have a problem with it either way. If somebody chooses not to, great. But I'd say there's plenty of works where God hasn't accepted. This is one of those verses, and I'm going to ask you guys to justify this statement if you can, because I went around and round on this one, and I can't make sense of this one. Has God already accepted your works? Yes.
Well, it doesn't say he's pleased with all your works. I just think he knows who we are as humans, and it's like, well, what they're doing. And as you said, the works have nothing to do with salvation, so we're gonna have to make it count for all those works that we do. That makes sense? Where I'm coming from?
Sort of, yes. I mean, so you're saying that,
Well, the Bible says all of sin.
right.
Well, so he knows that we're gonna be sinning, so in a sense, he's accepted the fact that we're gonna sin.
Right. So, okay. Yeah, I'm trying to make sense of that for a second. Would it be more fair to say that Jesus at least allows us to continue on doing whatever we do in kind of a form of acceptance? Not necessarily like condoning it, but saying, I'll let you continue for now.
But we'll get chastised here.
Yeah, well, we get.
It's not that he's pleased with them all, it's just.
Right. I mean,
That's my thought.
yeah, so, okay, for the sake of the camera audience, the people behind the electronics. So acceptance is not necessarily the same thing as pleasing. Okay.
Vincent,
Yes.
actually, the word ratzai, if you, but I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, it does mean he's pleased with your works.
Okay.
But the way you'd have to look at it is, every good work or every good thing people do, God's pleased with it. Has nothing to do with your eternal salvation.
Right.
But God's pleased with people's good works. Even the unsaved are gonna be judged on their works,
Mhm.
or degrees or different degrees of hell.
Right.
So.
So what was that Hebrew word you mentioned? Ratzah?
It's like ratzah.
So it is kind of a pleasing type of
Yeah,
work
you can
there?
Look it up later and see
Okay.
that it's actually means God is pleased with your works.
Okay.
Which is surprising, because I was thinking the same way that Keith was.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I'm not, Sherry can tell you very, very quickly that I am awful when it comes to any language, let alone the English language. Don't ask me to speak a foreign language, let alone one that's not really widely spoken, so. Thank you for that. Ratzah is pleasing, okay. I'll have to look into that. I'm not, it's one of those that kind of confuses me. What do you got, Dave?
First came out of it was, it depends on the definition of accepting that works, but then it also hit me. If you're applying for a job, they might accept your application, but that doesn't automatically mean you get the job. And the works are gonna be tested, like you said, like God says in, 1 Corinthians 3,
Okay.
accepted for review, maybe.
Okay. So basically from, again, for the camera it's like a job application is accepted, but not necessarily, doesn't mean you get the job. So,
And maybe you're applying for this job up here, and, but there's some deficiencies in your application, so, well, no, but we'll offer you a job here.
so would it be fair to say accepted, waiting for review?
Yeah.
Okay. That's possible too, yeah. It's, like I said, I went around and around in circles on this one, because I'm just like, it really, the next one I have, I think to me stands out even more, because this one, I think I've even talked to some of you guys about this. 9:9. Live joyfully with a wife whom you love all the days of your vain life, which he has given you under the sun. Does the word vain need to be there? The sentence, if you say, live joyfully with your wife whom you love all the days of your life, makes perfect sense, makes grammatical sense. Almost makes it kind of a happy sounding sentence. But you insert vain, it makes it a very cynical sentence.
Another meaning for that word vain in Hebrew is also like a vapor,
Yeah,
so.
vapor, meaningless. I mean, enjoy your meaningless existence. Thanks.
Temporary,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just like,
because you won't be married in heaven.
right,
I mean, not to another human being.
right.
Well, he's a human being, but
Keep digging.
This is my question, because I'm going to ask the question that this is my personal thought on it. I'd be interested in hearing you guys again on this one. The cynical nature, and I'm going to use the word Keith used last night when I was talking to him about it. There's a lot of attitude in here, almost like there's regret, maybe even aggressiveness, just kind of hopelessness. And I wonder, is cynicism a result of a hope lost, or can it be seen as a mark of apostasy? And I'm not asking if it's always a mark of apostasy or always a result, but there has been times in life, oh, you're fine. There's been times in life where I have apostatized. I kind of did my own thing for one stupid reason or another, and when I go back and look at it, they were really dumb reasons. And every time I got very, very cynical. It was just like, yeah, none of this matters. It's all pointless. Who cares? And I'll give you a couple instances of just things this week. If you're, and I'm sorry to get a little political, but I'm going to do it. I had a little bit of hope due to some campaign promises that some certain files were going to be released this week. Not only did that not happen, we were told, nothing to see here, there's no files, nothing, don't worry about it. That leads me to a cynical standpoint. Like, I mean, I was already pretty cynical about the government anyway, but it doesn't matter what side of the aisle. But this one is one of those things where it's very easy to look at as just like, great, more people get away with murder. Who cares? Nothing's going to happen to them anyway. I mean, we see it repeatedly. So yes, in terms of, and maybe we should be cynical when it comes to people. I don't know. We're not supposed to put our hope in people, so maybe that was my bad to begin with. So, and I do believe you could take pretty much any issue and say, okay, I have a little bit of hope in this, that, or the other, and then when that's shattered, you get cynical about it. So, those are my thoughts. What do you guys think? Is cynicism a mark of apostasy or the sign of a hope lost? I mean, if anybody has any input on that one.
You were gonna say something.
yeah, but you start first, go ahead.
Okay. What do you got?
No, I don't know that it's necessarily a mark of apostasy, because I think he has looked around with his eyes under the sun, as
Mhm.
you like to put it, for connection, for, what's real, and really hasn't found anything. He wasn't looking up to begin with.
That's
And
fair.
So it's a cynicism based on what's in this world. And so that's kind of how I view where he's coming from at this point.
So yeah,
That's what it sounds like.
based on where he is in the world and what he sees, I would also say that, because we're told in 2 Corinthians, my favorite verse in the Bible, 4:18, that we don't look at things that are seen, but what is unseen, because what is seen is temporary, what is unseen is eternal. And when we have a very temporary perspective, well, the temporary things are temporary. They die, they go away, and it's very easy to, quote unquote, lose heart, or whatever Hollywood's stupid saying is. When you have your hope on something eternal, it never goes away. So I'll tell you one thing, another one, and this is one I really struggle with, because in order for me to have hope in this, then Jesus needs to be wrong. And I don't, it's one of those called a fool's hope or whatever. I keep holding out hope for worldwide revival. But Jesus said, when I return, will I really find faith on the earth? I keep asking him, like, Lord, please be wrong. Please be wrong. I want you to be wrong. I want to see revival. But the more and more time goes on, and the further and further this globe gets away from the Lord, it's hard not to become cynical about that. So anyway, what do you got, Dave?
If you look at it as breath, the wind, or whatever Pastor mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
and then he's talking about the temporariness of life. If you compare that to eternity, which is a really, 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 really long time, this present time is nothing
Right.
compared to that. And so I don't think that the context mandates cynicism.
Mm-hmm.
It's just pointing to the temporary nature of our existence here. And I think it's today's English version that talks about no matter how long you live, you'll be dead a lot longer. I forgot where it says that. But that's certainly the truth. And so I don't know that it requires cynicism.
Mm-hmm. And you may very well be correct. I kind of hope you are, that the vainness is more, I don't like using this word, better translated as temporary. But
I think that's hinted at. Pastor, did you say wind or breath or?
vapor, yeah,
Means the brevity of life.
brevity, yeah, your brief life, yeah. So, it's good, it's good. Moving on, because I don't want to keep you till 9, maybe 8:30, sorry. Verse 10 through 12. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with your might, for there is no work or device or knowledge or wisdom in the grave where you are going. I returned, and I saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor bread to the wise, nor riches to men of understanding, nor to favor of men in skill, but time and chance happen to us all, happen to them all. It's all luck-based. For man also does not know his time. Like fish taken in a cruel net, like birds caught in a snare, so the sons of men are snared in an evil time, when it falls suddenly upon them. Work hard because you're going to die. Sorry. I like this one a bit better. Colossians 3:20. Wow. I really wrote that, didn't I? It's 3:24. I don't know why I wrote it like that. That's when you get when you spell check stuff and you wrote it, so you just kind of glaze right over it and don't even notice you missed something. Whatever you do, do your work heartily as for the Lord and not for people, knowing that it is from the Lord that you will receive the reward of the inheritance. It is the Lord Jesus Christ whom you serve. Again, this is Solomon's perspective here is under the sun. Any of you guys that have retired or moved on from a job, just how easily you are replaced. Like you were never there. If your hope is only in this world, that can be a shock to the system. Really can. But having a God that knows everything you do makes it a lot easier to work for that kind of a boss. Just saying. Yes.
Again, I don't know that requires cynicism.
Oh, this part, no.
If he was disagreeing, let's say, with the Colossians passage, he would be saying, why bother working since you're going to die anyway?
Right.
He didn't say that. He said, work hard. So I don't see the two as being even in any tension.
I say the only disagreement there can be is because where he says there's no device or knowledge or wisdom in the grave where you're going. Basically, everything ends at death. From a worldly perspective, that's true. From a heavenly perspective, it changes the narrative. I'll just say that. So, time and chance happen to us all. This is another one of those. That's sure how it looks from our point of view. It may look like time and chance, but there are several locations, I would say most notably the onset of the book of Job. Job didn't have the perspective of what's going on in heaven. Or Satan trying to tell God, hey, can I go after this guy? And God giving him the go-ahead. He didn't have that perspective. All he knew is all these bad things happened. I don't know why. It may look like chance. I'm not going to go completely nuts on predestination and free will. Both are true according to the word. Free will I somewhat understand. Predestination I very much do not. Because I don't have the capability to see things outside our time domain. I have no experience in the eternal plane. I have no idea how that works. I know the Bible talks about it, and I accept it because the Bible talks about it, but I don't need to understand it, as Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 says. I will say this, keep in mind with free will, there are limits to your will. Your free will cannot exceed your capability. I do not have the capability to walk on the sun no matter how much my will wants to. Now, I don't want to, but I cannot go back in time and change things no matter how much I would like to. Because there are a lot of things I did as a young child that I want to go back and just be like, why did you do that, dummy? Probably some things even a week ago, or maybe yesterday, or maybe even this morning, I don't know. But I don't control time. I don't have that capability. No matter how much my will wants to do something, there are things I cannot do. So, anyway, this is, like I said, this is one of those things that's only true under the sun. It looks like this is true, but when you factor in God, the narrative changes. Okay. We're going to get into a section here where it's going to sound a lot like Proverbs. So if you like Proverbs, this is probably a pretty good section. I like Proverbs, by the way. This wisdom I've also seen under the sun, and it seemed great to me. There was a little city with a few men in it, and a great king came against it, besieged it, and built great snares around it. Now there was a poor man, there was found in it a poor wise man, and he by his wisdom delivered the city. Yet no one remembered that same poor man. I would question this as being remembered the goal. Because if that poor wise man did nothing, they're all dead. And they still don't remember. I personally do not care about being remembered. I care about serving faithfully. It's a big difference. Jesus knows me.
I don't care about the one with the tassels on my robe.
Yeah, the tassels on my robe do me no good. I don't care about the accolades that men give me. I serve the Lord. That's it. Then I said, wisdom is better than strength. Nevertheless, the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are not heard. Words of the wise spoken quietly should be heard, rather than the shout of a ruler of fools. Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroys much good. I want to talk very briefly about this. Collectivism versus individualism. And spoiler alert, I think both are necessary. But I think a solid church needs to be a collective of believers, but each believer needs to be a strong believer. So if somebody comes in that's wanting to inject something, they're not coming up against one body, but a whole, like every single part of the body coming against it. That's my take on it. We get a lot of ideologies out there, particularly things like socialism and communism that go into the collectivism and that the individual does not matter. Then we get secular humanism that the individual is the only thing that matters. I will say this to Jesus, the individual is indispensable. Read the lost sheep chapter. One lost sheep he'll go after. So the individual is indispensable, but we are also biblically to operate as a unit. Hence, we're all members of the same body. That being said, when you think of things like a body, one sinner coming in is going to be like any other kind of invader into the body of believers. And as our body is supposed to act, it's supposed to purge that when it does happen. So, I know I'm a little bit off on a tangent here, but our goal is to turn the sinner first as a church. If we can turn the sinner, get them to repent, change their mind, to believe, and join us. Sure. If we can't, then measures may need to be taken. So that's yet another one of my hot button issues. I have several in this one. This is going to be a bit of a long section here, and I'll try to be done by 10, maybe. No, I'm kidding. I know Pastor needs some sleep. Dead flies putrefy the perfumer's ointment and cause it to give off a foul odor. So does a little folly to one respected for wisdom and honor. A wise man's heart is at his right hand, but a fool's heart is at his left. No, that's not a political statement, although it kind of makes kind of a funny one. It just happens to work out. Even when a fool walks along the way, he lacks wisdom, and he shows everyone that he is a fool. If the spirit of a ruler rises against you, do not leave your post, for conciliation pacifies great offenses. There is an evil under the sun there is an evil I have seen under the sun, as an error proceeding from a ruler. Folly is set in great dignity, while the rich sit in a lowly place. I've seen servants on horses, while princes walk on the ground like servants. He who digs a pit will fall into it, and whoever breaks through a wall will be bitten by a serpent. He who quarries stones may be hurt by them, and he who splits wood may be endangered by it. If an axe is dull and one does not sharpen it, then he must use more strength, but wisdom brings success. You know how we say that nowadays? Work smarter, not harder. A serpent may bite when it is not charmed. The babbler is no different. It's kind of a funny word to me. I like that. The words of a wise man's mouth are gracious, but the lips of a fool shall swallow him up. The words of his mouth begin with foolishness, and the end of his talk is raving madness. A fool also multiplies words. No man knows what is to be. Who can tell him what will be after him? The labor of fools wearies them, for they do not know how to go to the city. All I'm really going to do with this section is define what's a fool and what's a wise person. This one's a lot easier than it looks. The fool said in his heart, there is no God. There's a lot that comes into foolishness. This is probably the pinnacle of foolishness. We get that nowadays that the people are just like, oh, we came from apes. And I'm just like, are you sure you evolved? On the flip side of that, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. So, foolishness, no God. Wisdom, seeking after God. And I'm not talking about all these things that people call gods. I'm talking about the real God. I think that's pretty cut and dry. I know there was a lot there. I'm kind of glazing over, but for time's sake, I'll move on. Because this last section here bugs me. Anyway. Woe to you, O land, when your child is a king and your princes feast in the morning. Blessed are you, O land, when your king is the son of nobles and your princes feast at the proper time. For strength and not for drunkenness, because of laziness the building decays, and through idleness the hands of the house leaks. A feast is made for laughter, and wine makes merry, but money answers everything. Do not curse the king, even in your thought. Do not curse the rich, even in your bedroom, for a bird of the air might carry your voice, and a bird in flight may tell the matter. I think the first part, verses 16 through 18, really talks about how you conduct yourself according to what position you're in. Keep in mind, Jesus makes us kings and priests unto our Lord. We need to conduct ourselves in the same manner as befits the position that's being given to us. There's a punishment in the military for conduct unbecoming. You're signed up to serve your country. And if your conduct, even outside of uniform, but still while in the military, does not fit what would be given the right impression, you are charged and you can be found guilty of conduct unbecoming an officer, a non-commissioned officer. You put on the uniform, you're in a duty, you're expected to live to a certain standard. And there is, I think that's what's in play here with verse 16 through 18, when he talks about how the king and the princes are to conduct themselves. So, I have spent most of the week on this next verse. A feast is made for laughter, and wine makes merry, but money answers everything. We talked that the house of mourning is better than the house of feasting. We talked about that a few chapters earlier. Talked that mourning is better than laughter. We talked why. Because you grow when you mourn. It's not necessarily wrong. I mean, again, this is one of those things that's an under the sun thing. Wine makes merry. Does that make it good? I wonder. I think, again, in small doses, sure. And that, it's not a very, I think what's recommended at most is like 2 to 4 ounces a night, which is not much. But yeah, I don't know about anybody else. I don't like the feeling of losing control over myself, i.e., I don't want to be inebriated in any form. I didn't even like it when I had to go in for surgery and had that anesthesia stuff, and the idea that I'm not me, it just does not sit well. So, money answers everything. If somebody has $1, or maybe you can go home tonight if people still actually carry honest cash, and go home, pull out $1, look at whoever's on that, maybe George or Abe, Andrew, Ben, Ulysses. Look it right in the eyes and ask it, how do I get to heaven? And you're going to get the correct answer out of it. Silence. It has no answer. But again, that's one of those things that you have to factor in the eternal. Money has no answer to get you to heaven. 1 Timothy 6:10, I didn't put this on the slide, but I got to have it here because I don't trust me enough to quote things verbatim if I don't. 1 Timothy 6:10, for the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. We normally stop there, but that's at a comma. For which some have strayed from the faith in their greediness and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. Do you ever see a wall surrounding a trailer park? Money, the primary thing money brings isn't peace of mind, it's fear. Because once you have it and you start really trying to get more, you become so terrified to lose it. That's why when we had the Great Depression, people were throwing themselves out of the buildings. I have no more money. My God is dead. I might as well go too. There is much money can do. If you got money, you can get away with murder. You can get away with doing things to kids that should not be done. You can get friends. Get all the women you want, or men, whatever. Are they real? Are they there for you? Or are they there for your money? Do they care about you at all? Or is that little paper they want? From under the sun I have concluded this, and if somebody can think of something under the sun that money does not answer, I'd like to know. But I do believe money has an answer for everything, but keep in mind that might not be the right answer. I would also throw into this verse here. This is when Simon the sorcerer got saved. He sees people, and this is an Acts, so this is coming up, and I don't want to steal too much of the thunder because I know he's going to have something cool for us. He's wanting the spiritual gifts. So he offers Peter money. silver. But Peter said to him, your money perish, your money die with you, because you thought that the gift of God could be purchased with money. That should kill the Catholic Church's idea of purgatory. If I give you money, you can pray my soul into heaven. That ain't how it works. You're not getting to heaven without Jesus Christ. He is the only way you're doing it. Your money is not going to get you there. I'm going to do this, so this is kind of one that comes to mind, so bear with me. This is one of my favorite verses. I got a lot of favorite verses in Proverbs, but this is one of them, if I get to the correct page. Proverbs 30, verse 7 and 8. 2 things I request of you, deprive me not before I die. Remove falsehood and lies far from me. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with the food allotted to me, lest I be full and deny you, and say, who is the Lord? Or I be poor and steal and profane the name of my God. That's kind of the way I try to live. I don't want to be rich. I don't want to be poor. I do ask, but what is the point of tithing? Does God need our money? By money, did God create us? When it's all said and done, it's all going to burn anyway. God does not need our money. So why do we tithe? My take on it is, we tithe because it tells us we don't serve money. It's a statement to say, you know what? That has no hold on me. Money is one of those things, once it gets a hold on you, it will strangle you. So. For time's sake, I'll move on. If anybody can come up with anything there that's under the sun that money doesn't answer, I would like to know. That's fair. Love. At least real love. You can buy fake love. Wow. I'm not going to repeat that one. I agree. Yeah. Do not curse the king even in your thoughts. Do not curse the rich even in your bedroom, for a bird of the air may carry your voice, and a bird in flight may tell of the matter. Is it okay to curse anyone? I believe as a believer, no, it's not. We're not supposed to curse people. However, sometimes that's necessary. Be very, very, very careful. Don't just curse somebody because you don't like them and they've offended you. I have prayed Psalm 58 on a few people myself. Break the teeth out of their mouths, O Lord. When I hear them, a man in the halls of our Congress praying to Brahma. I prayed that prayer. So be very, very careful. In context of what he's saying here, yeah, the government's always watching you. The king's always watching. The rich are obsessed with everything you do, everything you think. And boy, are they going to come after you for wrong think. Especially nowadays. It was no different back then. Criticize a ruler, they're going to come after you. So yeah, be very careful even what you think, because out of the heart the mouth speaks. So. I spent so much time wrestling with a lot of this stuff this week, these past 2 weeks actually. I've had 2 weeks and I haven't come up with a challenge, so read chapter 11 and 12. This is going to be the end of the matter. And spoiler alert, there's a big twist ending. And it's a good twist ending at that. So, I would encourage all of you once again, keep in mind the heavenly perspective. I'm going to spoil it right now, the end of chapter 12. Serve the Lord. Serve the Lord. Not because you want to, but because it's a duty. His name is over us. We need to act accordingly. Not to get to heaven, we're already there. We don't work to earn his favor. We work because he did things for us. Because he died for us. That's why we want to do good things, not for any other reason. So, if there's any questions on how to get there, it's real easy. We believe that the Lord Jesus Christ is exactly who he said he was. He's the Son of God. It says so multiple times, regardless what people say, he's the Son of God. He died for your sins. It's personal. He was buried, and he rose again on the third day, according to Scriptures. It was written down. He rose from the dead, and he lives forevermore. You believe that, you're going to heaven. You can start a journey that you'll never regret. I caution you, though, if you don't, you're going to live with regrets. So, with that, God bless you all, Pastor.